The Deadpool and Wolverine movie is coming out this week, and I think it could either revitalize the MCU or it could sink the ship for good. I'm gonna go through my top 5 reasons why I think it might be great and why I think it may not live up to the hype. And I'll start with the good stuff because I really want this movie to be good. So, reason number 1. Kevin Feige was asked about the X-Men and the MCU, and he was quoted as saying that Deadpool and Wolverine is really when it all starts. And I think this is the most exciting thing that could come out of this movie. If we walk out of this movie with a clearer picture of how the X-Men will fit into the MCU, I'll call that a huge win. We already know from the trailers that Sabretooth, Pyro, and X-23 will be in the movie, so it seems like they're getting some of the old band back together. In my opinion, I think the best way to introduce the X-Men into the MCU is to show all these legacy X-Men that there's a huge multiverse out there, and we walk away with the understanding that there's a whole other group of X-Men ready to join the fight for the MCU. I would love if they used this movie to do a complete reset for the X-Men and usher in a brand new cast, and judging by the fact that they're using the TVA in this movie, I think that's a very real possibility. Reason number 2, this is the only MCU movie coming out this year. Marvel has been shoving content down our throats non-stop since Disney Plus come out, and a lot of people are sick of it. But I think they're starting to listen because the pace has slowed dramatically this year. We've had time before this movie to get ready for it, and we'll have time after this movie to digest it without another project coming out 2 months later. And given the fact that this is one of the most widely beloved comic book characters of all time, partnered up with one of the other most widely beloved comic book characters of all time, more people than usual are going to turn up for this one. Just try and find an open seat on release night for this movie. I bet you can. Reason number 3. Cameos. A lot of people are looking forward to see just who the hell is actually in this movie. Again, we already know that there's a few legacy X-Men joining the cast, but it goes way beyond that. People think that Taylor Swift or Blake Lively could be in this movie as Ladypool, and people think that Henry Cavill or Daniel Radcliffe could be in this movie as a Wolverine variant. The rumors are endless on this one, and I think a lot of more casual fans will buy a ticket just to see which of those rumors are true. And on the one hand, this could be awesome. If the movie reveals some heavy hitters and integrates them in a really fun way, then everyone's gonna love it. In fact, if the movie really pulls some extreme cameos out of Wade's ass, then it could turn a lot of new people into Marvel fans. Most people who are the type that would like comic book movies probably already do. But if you could get a legion of Swifties to come to the theater, that's an insane amount of new fandom that can be generated just off this one movie alone. But there's a flip side to this argument as well. Fan service is hard to balance, and it could be very easy for Marvel to fumble the way that they use these cameos. But we'll get some more on that later. Reason number 4. Ryan Reynolds did it. He brought the R rating to the MCU. I didn't really think that they'd make a Deadpool movie without it being rated R, so this doesn't surprise me so much. But it does excite me. It excites me for the future of R-rated MCU projects. Now that the seal is broken, we could get more mature-themed Marvel movies. Marvel movies that have a different tone than the somewhat standardized template that they've been using as of late. I would love to see a Ghost Rider movie get the R rating, or just think about an R-rated Punisher. The fact that a Deadpool movie could have this big of an impact on future MCU projects is both surprising and fucking hilarious. Reason number 5 for why I think this movie could save the MCU is the payoff. Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool has been cracking Wolverine jokes for years. He's done everything, from stapling a cutout of Hugh Jackman's face to his face, to breaking the fourth wall and calling out Wolverine for riding his coattails, for getting an R rating for the Logan movie after Ryan Reynolds got one for Deadpool. The fact that we finally get to see these two on screen together is nothing short of a miracle. Actually, it's probably because of the money, but regardless of the reason, I am really hyped. How can you not be excited to see this? This definitely has the potential to be the funniest Deadpool movie, which I can't believe I'm saying just because of how good the other two are. But with another A-lister like Hugh Jackman co-piloting this thing, it could very well happen. The amount of shit that Wolverine is going to have to take from Deadpool in this movie just puts the widest grin on my face. And regardless of the result, I think this movie is going to be a lot of fun. But it's entirely possible that Deadpool and Wolverine may not live up to expectations. Honestly, it's harder to have any higher expectations for a Marvel movie at this point, and if that's the case, there's usually only enough room to get let down. I really hope that's not the case, but I cannot ignore Marvel's recent track record. So let's take a look at the 5 reasons why I think this movie might be a little bit worse than we're all expecting. Reason number 1, the Wolverine in this movie is not the one we've grown up watching on screen. This Wolverine is just a multiversal variant of the Wolverine that we've been watching on screen for the last 24 years. It's pretty likely that he hasn't been through the same trials and tribulations that our Wolverine has, so it might be harder to empathize with him as a result. Think back to Logan from 2017. He was cloned in that movie, and he was called X-24. Now, did you care about X-24? Did you truly look at him as the same guy that the other Wolverine was? No, you didn't. He was born under different circumstances and he was molded from there in a different way. And I know that this isn't a perfect example, but I do think that this variant Wolverine could be similar. When Wolverine shows up in this movie, they're likely going to have to rush his backstory, so any subsequent emotional moments might not hit the same way. But I'm not sure that a Deadpool movie is really going to try and pull at our emotions like Logan did, so we might be fine here. Reason number 2. The writer's strike. If you didn't know, the big writer's strike in 2023 happened right in the middle of production for Deadpool and Wolverine, but they chose to film and complete the movie anyway during this time. And in one sense, that's great because we get the movie earlier. But this did have some other serious implications on its production. Under strike rules, writers were not allowed to make any variations to the script during production. These type of last-minute changes are typically a big part of filming movies, especially for someone like Ryan Reynolds. It's pretty widely known that Ryan Reynolds is a master improviser, and he technically was not allowed to do that during the making of this movie. He had to stick word for word to the script, so the overall tone of the movie might be a little different as a result. But who knows? Maybe they broke the rules and improvised, but as it stands, I do think it's a valid concern for the final product. Reason number 3. Cameos. That's right. I'm using this reason again because I just had to talk about the negative impact that cameos can have. While cameos can be fun, they can also get in the way of telling an authentic story. They can take you out of a moment rather than keeping you engrossed, and the MCU is famous for this. I think the best example is Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Did having John Krasinski as Reed Richards really do anything for the plot here? I'd argue that it actually took me out of the movie for 2 different reasons. For one, it seemed like Marvel was just giving in to the fans by giving John Krasinski that cameo instead of giving it to an actor that really embodied the role. And 2, the so-called smartest man in the universe gets outsmarted in about 10 seconds by Wanda. It just seems like they really didn't think through all the surprises and cameos in that movie, and I'm really just hoping they don't do the same here. Another example would be in the WandaVision show. One of the craziest moments ever in the MCU turned out to be one of the most disappointing. I'm talking about when the X-Men version of Quicksilver, Evan Peters' version, gets introduced to the MCU. For a second, the possibilities seemed endless. Could the X-Men be coming to the MCU in this show? Is Magneto gonna be in the last episode? Everyone was freaking out. But they didn't follow up on this in any real way, and the ultimate climax for his character in that show was being used as the butt of a boner joke. In my opinion, Marvel does not do cameos or fanfare very well, and I can see them overdoing it in an extreme way for this new Deadpool movie. Reason number 4, Cassandra Nova. We all know that the MCU has a villain problem. With the exceptions of villains like Thanos and Loki, Marvel heavily prioritizes developing good heroes to developing good villains. I think a lot of their villains are thinly written and forgettable. I know 90% of you can't remember the villain from Ant-Man 2's name without Googling it. Hell, I don't even remember the names of the villains from either of the 2 previous Deadpool movies. And when a villain doesn't have a household name like Galactus or Doctor Doom, the audiences don't get super hyped going in. And I think that could be the exact case for Cassandra Nova. Sure, Cassandra Nova is known to comic fans and she has some cool storylines in the comics. But do we really trust that she's going to be a memorable part of this movie? Do we even think she's going to get much screen time given how much wacky shit is going to be going on here? Unfortunately, I think it's very plausible that Cassandra Nova will fall into the pile of forgettable villains that Marvel has put on screen thus far. And that brings us to reason number 5. Disney. That's right, the mouse is overseeing this one. I know they got their R rating and there should be nothing to worry about, but I'm not convinced. Disney seems like a cool uncle who's just letting his nephews cuss, but do we really think this is going to be 100% uncompromised vision? Did Ryan Reynolds really want to tell this story with the TVA? Did he really want to use a variant Wolverine? Did he even want to make a movie with Marvel Studios after operating on his own for so many years? Disney has a way of getting their claws into things and shaping them to fit a bigger picture that they want to see. The parameters that Ryan Reynolds had to write this movie under were likely much more strict than they were for the previous films, and we just have to hope that the final product came out okay. But after everything I've just said, I think it could be a recipe for disaster. If the one sole MCU movie this year falls short of everyone's expectations, a lot of people might lose faith in Marvel, and it might be the last time they go to the theater to see one of their movies. But I'm optimistic, and I hope the exact opposite happens, because yes, a lot can go wrong, but so much can go right. I really hope that when I review this movie, I will have nothing but good things to say about it. If you want to see that review, please subscribe and stick around for a bit. And also like this video, because that really helps send it out to other people. But thank you so much for watching if you made it this far, and have a good one.